Pastor Josh here. We're reading Genesis chapter 3, verses 5 through 7. We're continuing the fall of Adam and Eve. Satan, through the serpent, appearing as a serpent, as a dragon, as I suggested the imagery we should have in our mind. Satan has just told Eve that she would not surely die if she ate from the fruit that God told her not to, if she ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And he goes and he continues his lie by saying that, no, you're actually going to be blessed. If you disobey God and eat this fruit, your life is going to be so much better because God knows that you're going to be better off if you eat this fruit, and he doesn't want you to be better off. In fact, he wants you to be a slave to him. He wants you to be lower than him, and so you need to eat this fruit so you'll be like him, and then you'll be super blessed. It'll all be great. So let's read what exactly Satan, the serpent, the dragon, says to Eve. For God knows that when you eat it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Notice, too, from yesterday to today, all the red. There's before here, we've not seen any red. I think I might have highlighted something about sin, but it's all been good. God's created. He's doing this great work, and now it's just all destroyed. It's all going back to the chaos that was beforehand. So here, Satan out and out lies and says, when you eat it, your eyes will be open. But technically, that is true. Their eyes were open. They realized they were naked. They realized what evil was because they would do it. And you will be like God. Well, that is also a true statement. God did know what good is, and he knows what evil is. He knows that. And so, unfortunately, God is not, or fortunately, good. God is not like us because he can hate evil like he should. We are tempted by evil and want to embrace it, and we're foolish and oftentimes do the things we shouldn't do. So it is true they would become like God in this specific way. They would know good and evil, because up to this point, Adam and Eve only knew good. The creation was good. The creation was wonderful. They didn't know what evil was like. They didn't know what bad was like. But the very day that they ate of that tree, when they ate from that fruit, they would experientially know what it's like to disobey God, because they did it. They disobeyed God. And so do not ever think that going against the Bible, going against God's revealed plan and ways and principles, never think that it's going to bless you. It will cut you. It will hurt you. Yes, there might be redemption on the other end. Yes, God can fix all the things that go astray. He's a great God that does that and is very forgiving. But there will be hurt. There will be pain on the other side of doing evil. So if you're at a crossroads, you're thinking, am I going to do what's right? Am I going to do what's wrong? Am I going to hold fast to the things that I've been taught and what I've believed? Or am I going to go astray? If you're in the midst of making that choice and you're thinking, if I go against everything that I've always believed and taught, it'll all turn out well. If the things that you've always believed was Scripture and was what God has revealed to you, it's not going to turn out well. No. It doesn't turn out well for them. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. So he said that to her, and then she saw it's almost like the fruit became irresistible. She saw it, and it's like, this thing looks yummy. It looks real tasty. And then she said, it's good. It really looks good. It's going to make my belly good. It's a beautiful fruit. Gosh, out of all the fruits, this is the best looking one. And it was desired to make one wise. She said, if I eat this, I'm going to know good and evil. I'm going to be like God. Yes, I want this. And then she takes it and she eats it. And you see even that process there. There's a lot of mental stuff, a lot of motivation, desires that are happening in her heart before she actually sins, because sin actually does begin in the heart and then it comes out fully in our actions. She takes it and she eats it, and then what does she do? Then she continues to sin. She multiplies it. She gives some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. He did the same thing. Now here's what's so disturbing, this little yellow mark right here, that Adam was with her the whole time. It's not that she had to go find him, like, hey, Adam, here's the fruit, eat the fruit. Well, he was there the whole time. Was he listening to what Satan was saying to Eve? Was he just up, like, looking around? He was definitely not. He was definitely not engaging in his role as spiritual leader. No way was he doing that, because if he was being a spiritual leader, paying attention, he would have said, no, wait, no, we don't need to do that, or at least have a conversation with Eve about it. Or he was actually sitting there and just listening and letting Satan talk to her, and then he was going to see, okay, well, let's see if something happens to her when she eats. Well, it looks like she was fine. Well, then I'll eat it too. It's just deep sin here. And if we think about the New Testament, Adam is always faulted with the wrong. It is not Eve's fault. Now, we're told, of course, that Eve tempted Adam, was the one that ultimately gave it to Adam to eat. She was tempted first and fell, and then Adam, but the blame always goes to Adam. It is Adam's fault. It was Adam that fell. And so here you see, terrible sin, all about the desires, Adam not paying attention to what's going on, or perhaps even worse, just looking at it happening and not doing anything, being afraid to, or perhaps being tempted himself, wondering, well, maybe this is good stuff. Verse 7, and then what happened? Here's the bad stuff that happens when they sinned. Then the eyes of both were opened. Yes, they did know what good and evil was. They only knew good up to this point, which was wonderful. Now they knew good and evil. They knew what it was to disobey God. And it's not good knowledge, because we can't handle it as humans. We can't handle it. We can't handle it in this state. We will always go for the evil. We will always be tempted and pulled toward their evil. So they were opened, and they knew that they were naked. They became ashamed. And here's a little twist or a little reflection on this idea of understanding that they were naked. God told them that in the day that they ate it, they would die. And of course, we know spiritually they were cut off from God. The relationship that they had with God was no longer the same, and we see that played out in the rest of chapter 3. But also think about this. A lot of critics will say, well, Adam and Eve didn't die the very moment that they ate the tree. So is God a liar? What's going on here? And so I honestly believe that the moment they ate the fruit, they began that process of dying. So while I myself am not in a state of dying, I am dying. I am on my way to the grave, and you are too. You have a time limit. Your cells are beginning that decaying process already. We are on our way to death. And I think the perfect humans, Adam and Eve, who were created in full perfection, their bodies were perfect. And then the moment that they ate it, their atoms began to, I guess that would be a pun, wouldn't it? Their atoms began to decay. Their molecules began to die, began to fall apart. And while it wasn't exactly noticeable, the wrinkles hadn't started yet, the gray hair hadn't shaped, the saggy skin, and the process of dying hadn't start hitting them yet. But they knew that they knew they were naked. They knew that they were dying, and that's why this shame came over them, because their bodies were starting to fall apart. Now, it took them hundreds of years before they actually died, but that process of death began in the very moment they ate from the fruit. And that is therefore why this feeling of shame and nakedness came over them. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. Now, this is an example for us not to follow. They attempted to cover their nakedness themselves, and what a terrible choice that is, fig leaves, to cover themselves. And now we're going to see that God will later on actually give them a proper covering by sacrificing an animal and giving them skins to cover their bodies. Will function much better than these sewed fig leaves. Pray this has been a blessing to you. I'll see you in the next video.